Ruby's Diner sat on the outskirts of Bakersfield, California, the kind of place where truckers stopped for coffee and locals came for breakfast on Sunday mornings. Red vinyl booths, checkered floor, the smell of bacon and fresh coffee always in the air. It had been there for 40 years, and the current owner, Jack Morrison, had kept everything exactly as it was when his father ran it. Katie Sullivan had been working at Ruby's for 2 years, saving every penny for nursing school. At 26, she was tired but determined, working double shifts 6 days a week while studying for her entrance exams at night. Her blonde hair was always pulled back in a neat bun, her light blue uniform always pressed despite being worn thin from years of use. She was good at her job, fast, efficient, kind to everyone who walked through the door. The regulars loved her. She remembered their orders, asked about their families, treated everyone with genuine warmth. On this particular Tuesday afternoon, the lunch rush was winding down. Katie was balancing a tray with coffee and pie when she heard the laughter from booth 7. 2 men sat there, both wearing cowboy hats. One was a rancher named Dale Hutchins, a decent man who came in weekly. The other was Sheriff Tom Bradshaw, and he was the kind of cop who'd never outgrown being a bully. Bradshaw was 52, overweight, with a mean streak that had gotten worse as he'd climbed the ranks of the county sheriff's department. He'd been in his position for 8 years, protected by friends in local politics, untouchable despite numerous complaints about his conduct. Katie approached their booth, professional smile in place. "Here's your coffee, Sheriff, and Mr. Hutchins, your apple pie." As she leaned forward to set down the plates, Bradshaw deliberately stuck his foot out into the aisle. Katie didn't see it until it was too late. Her ankle caught his boot and she went down hard, the tray flying, coffee splashing, pie sliding across the floor. Katie hit the ground on her knees and hands, pain shooting through her. The diner went silent. Bradshaw laughed, a loud, cruel laugh that filled the space. "Careful there, sweetheart. You need to watch where you're going. Someone could get hurt." Katie looked up at him, tears of pain and humiliation in her eyes. Her uniform was soaked with coffee. Her hands were scraped from catching herself on the rough floor, and Bradshaw was laughing. "You tripped me," Katie said quietly. "On purpose." "Prove it," Bradshaw said, his smile cold. "Looks to me like you're just clumsy. Maybe you should find a job where you don't have to walk and carry things at the same time." Dale Hutchins looked uncomfortable. "Tom, that's not funny. You shouldn't—" "Mind your business, Dale," Bradshaw said sharply. "I'm having a conversation with the waitress here about her coordination issues." Katie stood slowly, her knees throbbing. Jack, the owner, hurried over with a mop and towels. He helped her up, his face angry but controlled. "Katie, why don't you take a break? I'll handle this." "She can take a break after she brings me a fresh coffee," Bradshaw said, "since she spilled mine. And this time try not to fall on your face, honey." More laughter, cruel, dismissive laughter that made Katie's face burn with shame. She was about to respond when the door to the diner opened. A man walked in and the energy in the room shifted immediately. He was in his early 60s, lean and fit, with presence that filled the space. He wore jeans, a work shirt, and a leather jacket. His face was weathered but kind, his eyes sharp and assessing. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who'd never needed to prove anything to anyone. This was Chuck Norris, the actor and martial artist, though most people in the diner didn't immediately recognize him. He'd been driving through on his way to visit a friend's ranch and had stopped for coffee. Chuck had seen what happened through the diner window as he was parking. He'd watched the sheriff deliberately trip the young waitress and then laugh about it. And something in him that had never tolerated bullies ignited. He walked straight to booth 7. Dale Hutchins recognized him immediately and his eyes went wide. Bradshaw was still chuckling, oblivious. "Excuse me, Sheriff," Chuck said, his voice calm but carrying authority. "I saw what you just did to that young woman. I think you owe her an apology." Bradshaw looked up, annoyed at being interrupted. "And who the hell are you? Her father? Her boyfriend? This is none of your business, friend. Move along." "Chuck Norris," Chuck said simply. "And it becomes my business when I see a man in uniform abuse his position to humiliate someone who can't fight back." Recognition flickered across Bradshaw's face, followed quickly by defensive anger. "Look, I don't care if you're Chuck Norris or Chuck E. Cheese. I'm the sheriff of this county. That girl tripped over her own feet. If she's too clumsy to do her job, that's not my problem." She tripped over your boot, Chuck said. I watched you stick your leg out deliberately, then you laughed about it. That's not an accident, that's assault. And using your badge to intimidate her from reporting it makes it worse. The diner was dead silent now. Every customer was watching. Katie stood frozen, holding dirty towels, hardly believing what was happening. Bradshaw stood up, using his height and uniform to try to intimidate Chuck. You calling me a liar? You calling a sworn law enforcement officer a liar based on what you think you saw through a window? I'm calling you exactly what you are, Chuck said, his voice still calm. A bully who's been protected by a badge for too long. A man who thinks power means you can hurt people without consequences. And I'm telling you that behavior stops now. Bradshaw's face turned red. You threatening me? Because I can have you arrested for threatening a peace officer. I got a whole diner full of witnesses. Chuck smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Go ahead. Arrest me. I'm sure the media would love that story. Chuck Norris arrested for defending a waitress from a sheriff who assaulted her. I can see the headlines now. Can you? He pulled out his phone. And I have this conversation recorded, along with video from my dash cam in the parking lot that shows exactly what you did. So when you write up that arrest report, you should know it's going to be contested with video evidence. How do you think that'll play out? Bradshaw's confidence faltered. His eyes darted to Dale, looking for support, but Dale was studying his coffee cup intently. She's fine, Bradshaw said weakly. It was just a joke. She's not hurt. She's on her knees because you tripped her, Chuck said. Her uniform is ruined, her hands are scraped, and you humiliated her in front of her workplace. But sure, let's call it a joke. Do you think anyone's laughing? He looked around the diner. No one met Bradshaw's eyes. The sheriff was alone, his power suddenly meaningless against simple truth and accountability. What do you want? Bradshaw asked, his voice deflated. I want you to apologize to Katie, Chuck said. A real apology. Then I want you to cover the cost of her uniform replacement and medical care for any injuries. And I want you to think real hard about whether law enforcement is the right career for someone who enjoys hurting people weaker than themselves. Bradshaw looked at Katie. She stood with her chin up, no longer crying, strengthened by having someone stand up for her. I'm sorry, Bradshaw muttered. It was inappropriate. I'll pay for the uniform. Louder, Chuck said. And look at her when you say it. Bradshaw's jaw clenched, but he looked at Katie and spoke clearly. I'm sorry for tripping you. It was wrong. I'll pay for damages. He threw a $100 bill on the table and walked out, his shoulders hunched. Dale Hutchins followed after leaving a generous tip and mouthing I'm sorry to Katie. The moment they left, the diner erupted in applause. Customers stood up. Several came over to shake Chuck's hand and check on Katie. Jack, the owner, came out from behind the counter. Mr. Norris, thank you. Bradshaw's been causing trouble for years. No one's ever stood up to him because he's got the whole sheriff's department behind him. Not anymore, Chuck said. He turned to Katie. Are you all right? Do you need to see a doctor? I'm okay, Katie said, her voice shaking. Just bruised. Thank you. I can't believe you did that. You didn't have to get involved. Yes, I did, Chuck said simply. I spent my whole life learning martial arts, learning about discipline and respect. Those skills aren't just for movies or tournaments. They're for standing up when someone can't stand up for themselves. That's what strength is really for. He pulled out a business card and handed it to Jack. I have a foundation that helps young people pursue education in fields where they want to help others. Nursing, teaching, emergency services. If Katie's serious about nursing school, have her call this number. We have scholarships available. Katie's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. I don't know what to say. Say you'll finish nursing school, Chuck said. Say you'll become the kind of healthcare worker who treats patients with the dignity that everyone deserves. That's payment enough. 3 weeks later, Sheriff Tom Bradshaw was quietly forced into early retirement after dashcam footage of the incident leaked online and went viral. The county board received hundreds of complaints. An investigation uncovered multiple incidents of abuse of power. Bradshaw left in disgrace. Katie received a full scholarship from Chuck Norris's foundation. 4 years later, she graduated with her nursing degree and went to work at a community health clinic serving low-income families. And every time she put on her scrubs, She thought about that day at Ruby's diner. The day she learned that sometimes heroes do exist. They just look like ordinary people until the moment someone needs them. On the 5-year anniversary of the incident, Katie wrote Chuck a letter. She told him she'd delivered her first baby that week, helped a single mother through labor when the mother had no one else there. She told him she'd thought about his words about using strength to protect others who couldn't protect themselves. Chuck wrote back. His letter was short. You're not protecting them anymore because you're stronger. You're protecting them because you remember what it felt like to be vulnerable. That's what makes you a great nurse. Keep making the world better, one person at a time. Katie framed the letter and hung it in her office. A reminder that standing up for others, even when you're scared, even when it's hard, is what real strength looks like. If this story resonated with you, please like and share it with someone who needs reminded that bullies only win when good people stay silent. Subscribe for more stories about everyday heroes who choose courage over convenience. And comment below about a time someone stood up for you, or a time you found the courage to stand up for someone else. Your story might give someone the strength they need today.